What's up, Fin Nation? Today we're gonna go ahead and go into a deeper dive of who we are getting in Darren Waller. Darren Waller is 5 or 6 removed from two of his best seasons, 2019 and 2020. And does he really fit the Miami Dolphins offense? And how good does he fit the Miami Dolphins offense? Also, I'm going to go ahead and cover his injury history because, again, it doesn't surprise me. Chris Greer did a great trade in getting Minkah Fitzpatrick back to Miami, but then he goes and trades for a receiver that was converted to a tight end back when he was with Oakland. And he had his best 2 years with Oakland in 2019 and 2020. But then he went to the Giants and didn't do much last year. But he's been injured the last couple of years. And we'll get into that. But does Chris Greer really love injury-prone players? And I know it's a low-risk, high-reward type of deal getting Darren Waller to the Miami Dolphins. And he unretired, saying that he would only play for the Miami Dolphins. And he would only unretire if it was the Miami Dolphins, no other team. But I'm going to go ahead and read to you an article that is actually titled, Does Darren Waller Fit in the Miami Offense? And then I'll go ahead and tell you who he reminds me of, and is he really going to help the Miami running game, or is he really just a prototype of this other person that I'm thinking about that really didn't help the Miami running game, and that's why we got rid of him? And he's been 2 or 3 years removed from being a Miami Dolphin. And then I'll also pop up clips during this reading of the article of what he can actually do in terms of helping the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins acquired Darren Waller from the New York Giants on this past Tuesday. But how does he fit into the team's offense this coming season? The Miami Dolphins made 2 surprising trades this week, but their acquisition of tight end Darren Waller from the New York Giants was somehow the biggest stunner. When the Dolphins traded Jonnu Smith to the Steelers on Monday, reports floated that Miami had begun talking with teams about trading for a tight end, but nobody predicted the eventual target would be Waller, who did not play in 2024 after retiring at the end of 2023 season. The Dolphins are sending a 6th-round pick to the Giants for Waller and a conditional 2027 7th-round pick. Miami is also signing Waller to a 1-year contract worth up to $5 million in incentives. It's an incredible low-risk investment in a player who had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2019 and 2020. And even though Waller's numbers declined in subsequent seasons, he still was productive in 2023, recording 52 catches for 552 yards and 1 touchdown. Let's dive into the tape and see what the Dolphins are getting in their new tight end. Waller adds a dimension to the Dolphins offense. The former Raiders standout is billed as a primary pass catcher, and that is overwhelmingly apparent on his tape. Waller is listed at 6'6", 250 pounds, but is incredibly smooth, getting in and out of breaks to man coverage from the slot and on the outside. Somewhere the Giants used him a bit in 2023. However, what really stood out is how explosive Waller is in short spaces. For his size, watch him explode through the ball on the slant route against the Dolphins. The burst is what allows Waller to win many matchups in the receiving game. And the Dolphins don't really have a player with Waller's size and burst on the roster. The cross route against the Commanders is another good showing of his skill set. Watch him explode past the linebacker and create a ton of separation moving across the field. Waller has a second gear that most tight ends don't. While Waller can be effective on crossing routes, he's an absolute menace for defenses to handle on vertical routes from the slot. Waller's speed allows him to run linebackers and safeties off the line quickly, and his size makes him a big target in congested areas. This is one of the bigger differences between Waller and Johnny Smith. Wasn't slow by any means, but he wasn't a vertical receiving target in the way that Waller has been throughout his career. Waller's only touchdown from 2023 came on a nice adjustment on a go route from the slot against the Commanders. I'm going to pop up all these videos so you guys can see them in the video. The Dolphins struggled to stretch teams vertically in the passing game last season, relying almost exclusively on stretching defenses horizontally. This is partially by design, but Miami's predictability was a big issue down the stretch. What gives them something different in the slot, and a team signed another vertical receiving threat this offseason in Nick Westbrook, which could add an extra dimension in the passing game. Waller isn't really a tight end, which I told you guys, he was converted to tight end. Waller is labeled as a tight end on the Dolphins roster, but he's really not a tight end. He offers next to nothing in the running game and runs a lot of his routes detached from the line of scrimmage anyway. In 2023, Waller ran 188 of his 355 routes from the slot. For his career, Waller has run just less than 30% of his routes from the slot. To put this in perspective for the Dolphin fans, Waller's skill set and usage are pretty close to Mike Gesicki. That's the other tight end I was speaking about, Mike Gesicki. Sure, both players are labeled as tight ends, but they're actually big slot receivers. Now, Waller has much more juice with the ball in his hands than Gesicki, but ultimately, these players fill the same role. And a big reason for that is Waller's poor run blocking, including his rep against the Dolphins. Waller fails to secure a second-level block on David Long, leading to a blown-up play. His 2023 tape is filled with plays where he fails to secure a second-level block or help his double-team partner near the line of scrimmage. Westbrook was mentioned earlier because he also profiles as a potential big slot option for the Dolphins. However, he's a much better blocker than Waller, and given Miami's focus on the outside zone scheme, that matters. What to make of Waller's fit? There are several layers to Waller's potential fit in the offense. At best, he does provide the Dolphins with a unique pass-catching skill set, and his pedigree as a player with a proven track record of producing quality numbers in his role is certainly appealing. However, envisioning a consistent role for him on this offense is challenging. He's a downgrade from Westbrook and Johnny Smith in the blocking department and has somewhat redundant receiving profile. Although Waller's receiving profile is intriguing, he'll likely still fall behind Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane in the target pecking order. There will be instances like the red zone where Waller's size and catch radius will come in handy. He's not a bad player to have available by any means, but looking at him like a one-to-one replacement for Smith based on what he showed when he last played isn't fair. Smith and Waller are very different flavors of pass-catching tight ends. Plus, there's a whole what does he look like after a year off question. Waller retired to pursue a rap career after a slew of minor injuries and a very scary hospitalization related to a medical episode in 2023. Also, he'll be 33 in September. There's a lot of red flags for one player. Of course, the Dolphins have the benefit of reuniting Waller with his offensive coordinator, Frank Smith, who was Waller's tight end coach with the Raiders. The two clearly have a good relationship, and it would be shocking if Smith didn't heavily influence the Dolphins into making this move. So what should you make of this? Waller's potential contributions to the offense aren't vital to the Dolphins' success. It feels like they are because he's replacing Smith, who was such a big part of the offense last season. But any success Waller has feels more like a bonus than a necessity. The Dolphins basically got Waller for free. If he can stay healthy or isn't 100% committed, they can move on from him without second thought. Despite the skill set being somewhat a strange fit for Miami, it's a free look at an incredible talented player in a season where the Dolphins need all the help they can get. It's hard to knock them much from taking a chance on Waller. Again, he's a good pass-catching receiver / tight end. Like the article said, he's basically a big slot receiver that Frank Smith turned into a tight end while in Oakland. And he came to Miami because of Frank Smith. But also, he's very injury-prone, which the article does not mention. But I'm going to go ahead into his injury history and then dive into his career stats. In October of 2023, thigh hamstring sprain pull. Waller aggravated his hamstring in the second quarter of Week 8 versus the Jets. He did not return to the contest and then later was placed on IR. October of 2022. Waller played only 6 snaps before departing. He was placed on IR on November 10th. July 30th, 2022. Waller missed 1 month of practice, but part of his absence was contract related. November 2021. Waller suffered a strained IT band. The Raiders will win over the Cowboys. October 2021. The pedal ankle sprain pull. Waller misses Week 7's game against the Eagles due to an ankle injury. Pedal ankle sprain pull. Again, August 2021. So that happened to him twice in 2021. Waller was sidelined with an ankle injury during the 2021 preseason. Knee patella sprain. Waller was listed as questionable for Week 3 against the Patriots with a knee injury. He was active for the game. Knee unspecified strain. Waller had a knee issue heading into Week 3 game against the Patriots. December 30th, 2019. Waller had a thumb surgery. It's unclear when Waller sustained the injury. August 3rd, 2019. Waller suffered an AC joint sprain during training camp. He was healthy for Week 1 of the regular season against the Broncos. October 2015. Grade 2 thigh hamstring strain. Waller landed on the season-ending injured reserve due to a hamstring injury suffered during the game against Arizona. October 11th, 2015. Waller suffered a concussion during the game against the Browns. He missed 1 game. Again, Chris Greer does a great trade to get Minkah Fitzpatrick back in Miami and then signs a talented receiver / tight end, but with injury questions. Again, if Miami fails to end up with a good record and go into the postseason, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel should be gone. Just my opinion, because Chris Greer has a habit of signing injury-prone players throughout his history with Miami while being the general manager and in charge of talent. His career stats: 2023 with the Giants, 52 receptions, 552 yards, 10.6 average. The long one was 29 yards, 1 touchdown. 2022 with the Raiders, 28 receptions, 388 yards, average 13.9 long, 34 yards, 3 touchdowns. 2021, 55 receptions, 665 yards, 12.1 average, and the long one was 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2020, 107 receptions, 1,196 yards, 11.2 average, 38 yards on the longest, and 9 touchdowns. 2019, 90 yards, 1,145 yards, 12.7 yards on average, 75-yard long reception, 3 touchdowns. 2018, 6 receptions, 75 yards, 12.7 average, 75-yard long reception, 3 touchdowns. 2018, 6 receptions, 75 yards, 12.5 average. The longest was 44 yards, no touchdowns. 2016, 10 receptions, 85 yards. Average was 8.5. The longest was 15 yards, 2 touchdowns. 2015, 2 receptions, 18 yards, 9-yard average. The longest was 17 yards, 0 touchdowns. Career average, 350 receptions, 4,124 yards. Average is 11 yards on receptions. Long is 75 yards and 20 touchdowns overall. So in 8 years, he basically has 350 receptions and almost 4,200 yards with 20 touchdowns. Now, can he stay healthy and can he produce? It's a low risk, high reward. If he gets injured again, you just cut him and you don't lose that much money. Leave me your thoughts down below what you think about this, but this is a little deeper dive into who Darren Waller is as a player, not a person, as a player. And do you think this was A signing, B signing, C signing, D signing, or F signing? Leave me your thoughts down below and your grades, and we'll talk to you soon, Fin Nation. Have a great one and happy 4th of July. Go Fins.